Hello and welcome to the No Easy Way Out podcast. My name is Tony Nash, and we are coming to you as always from the Armory in beautiful downtown Owosso, Michigan, home to my company, AZ Business Solutions, where we help grow your brand from A to Z. Now, we are joined today by the Owosso Main Street Manager, Josh Adams. Josh, welcome to the show today.
Hi, Tony. Good to be here.
Thanks for being with us today. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, I met you about 6 years ago. I was the general manager at the Comstock Inn, which was our local downtown hotel. And I went to a board meeting, I believe it was for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And it was at Abiding in the Vine Tea Room, which is a little restaurant / tea room that's actually the number one rated tea room here in Michigan. Mm-hmm. It actually belongs to your mother. Yep. By chance. But I went there for the meeting, and that's the first time I met you. And, you were at that point just kind of talking about coming on as the Main Street Manager. I had never really heard about what a Main Street Manager is or what they do. I know we have a great business in town called Main Street Pizza. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, is he going to manage the pizza place? Because they have awesome pizza. Don't change the recipe. But then I learned it obviously was not that. And then I kind of heard you talk a little bit about some of your ideas and visions for downtown. At that time, there really was a lot of empty buildings in downtown. There was not a ton of business. And of course, we're going to talk about how that's changed over the last 6-7 years drastically. But that's kind of how we met each other. That's how I know Josh. Of course, when I was at the Comstock, Josh was very supportive because we were a downtown business. And then when I moved on to start my own business, Josh was one of the people I spoke to about it. And he's been very supportive of what we're doing here at AZ. And it's just been a pleasure to work with you. So, Josh, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and kind of what you're up to these days?
Sure. Born and raised here in the area. Graduated high school from Corunna High.
Go Cavs.
Yes, go Cavs. Just basically, grew up here. Loved the community. When I was around 25, I started a youth mission here in the city of Owosso. Mm-hmm. Worked with youth for about 12 years, and when the youth started getting a little older,
as they do,
as they always do, we wanted to try to find ways to plug them into the community. It's a gospel-led youth mission, the one that we ran, Edge Missions, mm-hmm. From 2004 until 2016. Mm-hmm. It was important for us to do more than just minister to the kids inside the four walls of the church, but to bring them out into the community. So we started looking around places where we could plug the kids into, and I met a gentleman by the name of Dave Acton.
I know Dave very well.
That told me about this thing they call Main Street that had started up a few years back here in the city. So I just kind of vetting it for my ministry, I dove in to a couple committee meetings and just fell in love with the system. Actually joined the committee and
at that point there was no Owosso Main Street though, right?
Yes, there was.
Oh, there was.
It was actually functioning.
I didn't know that.
They had all the committees up and running. It started back in 2009 here.
Okay, I didn't know that.
The community. Yep. This would have been 2012 probably.
Okay. Yep.
Kind of fell in love with it. Plugged the kids in, started doing some activities, sooner or later, eventually the position came up. I kind of threw my hat in the ring, and got the job. I do not have my field of work is prior to that was environmental consulting. So I graduated from University of Michigan. And
Go Wolverines.
Go Wolverines, yes. I went from black and gold to blue and gold.
Yeah.
Love it. Finished my degree there and then went right into Genesee County area doing environmental consulting. So it was a bit of a career change,
sure,
jumping
absolutely.
from environmental work into what I was essentially community organizing.
Yeah.
But loved it. Loved working with that field of work. But this was really something that spoke deeper to me about connecting with people and being part of a community revitalization plan. Mm-hmm. It's kind of off to the races from there. The last 6 years have been kind of a bit of a whirlwind, but loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
So.
And obviously, Josh is a well-known figure in our community. If you go to any kind of board meeting or community event, you're probably going to see Josh there. He is extremely interwoven into the fabric of our community, and a lot of people know him, and he has a great reputation, and so he's certainly been a good representation of our community. And as I said, a lot of things have really turned around in our community. But for those of our listeners who still don't really know what a Main Street manager is, why don't you tell them a little bit about what a Main Street manager is exactly, and what kind of you do to help the community revitalization?
Sure. The National Main Street Center was birthed out of Chicago, two different locations, Chicago and Nebraska, actually of all places, Iowa, and out of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And it was something that was started in the 1970s when really the community started to see urban sprawl. So you started to see the big box stores, you started to see the mall pop up. And as a result, people were flooding to that and leaving downtown empty.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to give props to that the new season of Stranger Things. They actually tell a story about, they actually interwove that story into.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's based in 1985, but that's just the geek in me talking a little bit about that. But it was a problem. People were vacating downtowns.
Yeah.
And they, the small mom and pop shop was dying due to
becoming a thing of the past.
To big box store. And the National Trust for Historic Preservation saw that, and they really made an effort to find ways to engage with communities to help tell their local story in an effort to help bring revitalization back. So this is a bigger, Main Street is a bigger thing than Owosso or even Michigan. It's national. There's thousands of Main Street communities across the country. Yeah. We're one of them. And it's a network of people. And we're a little different here in Michigan because we have what's called a Downtown Development Authority, which is a governmental entity. And when Main Street was introduced here in the state, probably in the late 80s, early 90s, actually in Oakland County, but it eventually kind of went statewide. And from there, the natural fit was into the downtown development structure,
right?
Because it was a built-in funding source.
Yeah.
So, from a local context, Owosso Main Street DDA is a downtown development authority that uses the National Main Street model to implement the tax dollars that are captured by that DDA. So that model is based on a volunteer-led model.
I see.
The idea that they talk a lot about how for years many people thought someone in a big white horse was going to come in and save their community.
Right.
In those times, there are many communities going through that right now.
Right.
But they realized that it was going to be local people that sparked innovation, entrepreneurship in their communities, and ultimately they are going to be the answer to what they need. And that's really the purpose of Main Street. We have a 4-point approach through organization, promotion, economic vitalization, and design that we use to, and we could go into the weeds with that, so to speak, but we won't. But it's all based on those 4-point approaches and using volunteers to tell the story and to implement revitalization through those things. And then it comes in a wealth of other grants, and we work with the state, we work with the MEDC and things like that.
And we've got to see it firsthand at work here in Owosso, as we've seen a lot of change, as I've referred to multiple times over the last 6 years especially. But for somebody that's out there as an entrepreneur listening, a business owner in a downtown or in a small community, and maybe they don't have a Main Street organization. By the way, do you know of a statistic of what percentage of communities have a Main Street? Is it pretty saturated?
No, it's not. There are, counting Oakland County. Oakland County kind of has its own separate organization, but then there's a statewide organization that we're a part of. It's called the Michigan Main Street Center. It's based out of the Michigan Department of Economic Development Corporation, MEDC as we call it. But statewide, there's close to 50 communities that are Main Street. And then there are 3 levels to Main Street: associate being the first, select, and then master level. You kind of graduate up in classes by the certain accomplishes that you meet. Owosso is a master level Main Street. Probably around 15 to 20 of those statewide.
Okay. So if someone's listening and their community doesn't have one, what would you recommend, or who would you recommend that they reach out to within their community to maybe get something like this started, or to kind of help the process along?
Sure. If it's just a citizen that's interested in diving in, I would go into your city government and talk to your city manager. If you have a downtown development authority in the community that you live in,
It's a good natural fit. Yeah.
talk to that individual that is the director there, or you simply call up the MEDC and talk to Laura there at the office of Michigan Main Street. They're really open about that, and they're
all
very
right. Laura,
interested.
get ready for some calls.
Exactly. Laura Kristoff is her name. She's awesome.
Okay.
And it's twofold. In Michigan, it is in many ways, in many times, tied to local municipalities. However, there are many throughout the state that are nonprofits, similar to Chamber of Commerce's.
Right.
I guess that's the best local model to compare it to.
Okay.
But if there's a group of business owners in the community, one way or another, you can start a Main Street.
Okay. So we're going to dive into Owosso, Michigan here in a little bit, because that is your place. That is your home. It's my home. It's where we both work. And I think it's a good model. I think even the state has done some case studies on our model here and kind of shown some of the progress that we've made. So we're going to dive into that in a second. But first, I want to give our audience an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. And so we have this thing that we do on the show called This or That. And so I'm going to give you 10 rapid fire questions, this or that. You got to choose one or the other. Don't think about it. Don't apologize for
drink
it.
first.
Yeah, there you go. just answer the question. This will tell us everything we need to know about you.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Mac or PC?
Mac always.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Seinfeld or The Office?
Seinfeld.
Good man. Action or comedy?
Action comedy.
Yes. Facebook or Instagram?
Oh. Every day closer and closer always to Instagram.
Yeah. They say Facebook's for old people, and
I know.
so, I think just the age in us, we're just creatures of habit. But yeah, Instagram is certainly becoming more and more popular. Steak or chicken?
Steak.
Wolverines or Spartans?
Wolverines.
I think we know that.
Always.
I think I know the answer to this one, but this will lead us into the rest of our conversation. Amazon or shop local?
Always shop local.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously, there are some advantages and some conveniences to Amazon, and we won't dive too deep into that because that could be a whole nother. But I would say check with your local businesses and see if they have what you're looking for first, because when you buy from them, you're supporting a local family, you're supporting a local mom and dad, a local grandma and grandpa, and there's certainly a lot of benefits to that. So we talked a little bit about what a Main Street manager is, and we talked a little bit about your journey and kind of where you are today. But what was it really that kind of got you to the point where you said, I think I really want to tackle this Main Street manager gig?
That's a good question. I really didn't know what I was getting into, frankly. I knew that working with youth for so long and working with youth in the Owosso area, I knew that connecting people to people mattered to me. And it was a passion of mine, and having people come together for productive conversation has always been a passion of mine, and I honestly knew other than my efforts in volunteering with the organization committee prior to joining on as director, I had very little exposure to what Main Street was and all that was detailed. I just knew that going in, it was an opportunity for me to serve my community, and also to connect people, and that's really what drove me to want to apply for this position.
Okay.
And I had a group of people around me at the time that were really great at a group of people around me that knew more about what Main Street was. That kind of looked at me and said, "You know what, you'd be a good fit." And all right, I trust you.
Yeah.
Because I honestly loved what I did before.
Yeah.
I loved the company that I worked for. But this was twofold. It was closer to home.
Yeah.
I didn't have to travel as much. I used to have to travel throughout the Great Lakes region.
Yeah.
And that was also a big
Draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, it was connecting people with people.
Well, I think they were right. It's a good fit for you. I think you've done an extremely good job, and I'm excited as a business owner that you're the guy in charge. And I want to say thank you for everything you've done for our business, just even in promoting and pushing people our way and sending business our way, giving advice when needed, and always helpful. So let's talk about our downtown specifically. Owosso, Michigan, right in the middle of the mitten, the palm of the mitten, mid-Michigan area. Small little town, population
15,000.
15,000.
It fluctuates.
Small little town, but it's a beautiful town. I grew up here. Josh grew up here. I lived in New York for a while. And, when they say there's no place like home, it's real. I know when I was growing up, there was really kind of this negative vibe about Owosso. Everyone you talk to, my friends, I can't wait to get out of this town. And of course, I think everyone that grows up in a small town has visions of getting out, and but everyone's saying, I want to get out of this town and try something else. But everybody always comes back. Very few people that I know that have moved away didn't come back, because it is just a great place for me to raise my family. We really love it. But I know recently a friend of mine who grew up here with me, he was in town visiting, and he came down and visited me here at the Armory, and he was just blown away. We weren't talking about Owosso. We weren't talking about Main Street. We weren't talking about he just said, man, there's so much going on downtown now. I just noticed how many businesses and some really cool shops down there, and cool coffee shops, some cool restaurants. There's some little boutique shops. There's hobby shops. There's all kinds of neat little things happening. And he goes, it's just really cool to see that. And I thought that was awesome for a hometown person. We see it kind of happening progressively. And so we see little pieces at a time. But when you've been gone for a while and you come back and you see the big change, it was really noticeable. And so let's talk about some of the things that have happened in our town. And I don't know what kind of statistics you have, but let's talk about some of the new businesses that have come into town, and there's all kinds of new residential spaces being built, some second-story apartments. You drive through downtown right now and you see like 5 or 6 buildings getting refaced and worked on, work happening inside and outside of the building. So talk about some of the things that have happened in downtown Owosso in the last 5 or 6 years.
Sure. In 2013, there was just shy of $600,000 in private and public investment within the downtown area.
600,000.
600,000.
Wow.
In 2016-17, there was over 7.2 million.
Oh my goodness.
And this past year, 2017-2018, we're at about 5.1 million of public-private investment here in the community.
Amazing.
So we've seen an influx of money coming in, but it's interesting. It's not money coming in from the outside. It's local people taking risks to be able to do what they're doing. Now, there's lots of factors in that, right? There's the economy that is doing well, but the key to development, I think, is the belief that you can.
Yeah.
In my work, in our type of work, we talk about making place or place making quite often. And you can engineer a great city park, but if people don't want to be there, you just have a great looking empty city park.
Right.
Same thing with development. You can have a great tapestry in historic buildings, but if there's nobody around that believes that it can happen, it's not going to happen. And
Sure.
I think I think that's the story of Owosso over the last 6 years. It's more than just the people you see on podcasts like this, or in the paper.
Yeah.
The fact is there's a large group of business owners and a large group of property owners in this community that have taken substantial risks with their family, with their livelihoods, to just try it out. And I think it all stems from their belief that it can happen.
Yeah.
When I started really diving into the community, there was a saying that was going around, why not Owosso?
Yeah.
So when people would say, well, there's a craft coffee shop coming into Owosso, people would go, well, why Owosso?
Why Owosso, right.
And the response would be, well, why not?
Right.
Why can't it happen here?
Right.
And I think that's been the shift. 2007, 2008 hit us really hard.
For sure. That's when I moved to New York.
Yeah.
I had to. I took a job out there, and it was tough.
Yeah, and it took the wind out of our sails. And I think we had kind of all of our eggs in one basket, that manufacturing basket, and people didn't know what to do. And there was a group of people, going back to 2007, 2008 that really started to try to do this grassroots effort. And kudos to business owners like John Hankard of Hankard Sportswear, a local T-shirt
absolutely
apparel
we use
store
them all
here.
the time.
Yep. Sue Treen with Apple Tree Lane, a local and it wouldn't create popcorn company. She makes the best darn popcorn you'll ever eat,
for sure.
And along with many others, they're just two that I highlight. But there are a lot of business owners here that and property owners here that said, let's bring in this Main Street model. Let's be able to change the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And there are all other groups, other religious organizations, a lot of churches in our community, a lot of service groups that all kind of at the same time were thinking the same thing. And how do we change our belief of this community? And it started there for all of us. And I think that's the story that's been playing out.
Yeah, and I will tell you, Josh, firsthand, that when I came back from New York, of course, I'm in a thriving community in New York. I mean, I was in a community not much bigger than Owosso, probably population of 30,000, but the size of the town wasn't much bigger. The downtown wasn't much bigger, but it was extremely vibrant. There was 34 hotels in that little community at that time. Wow. There was a lot of tourist area attractions there, but I come from this community where everyone's just it was Saratoga, New York, so everyone's like Saratoga, Saratoga, Saratoga. Everyone just believed in it. Everyone wanted to be there. And when I came back to Owosso, I was excited to come home. And one of the things I really noticed first off was, and this would have been like right at the end of 2011, beginning of 2012, just the apathy that was surrounding the community. And I one of the first things I did when I became the general manager is I literally went to almost every business in Owosso and sat down with somebody and introduced myself. And of course, the Comstock had gone through some really tough times, and it had a really kind of poor reputation. And so I just was determined I was going to change the reputation around. And so I went and sat down with every business owner. And man, it was just like there were so many people that were just, this is just Owosso, it's just the Comstock. There's such an apathy. And I have really, genuinely, sincerely noticed over the last 4 or 5 years especially that it's not like that anymore. I mean, people are excited about Owosso and what's going on. You mentioned a craft coffee shop. We have a coffee shop here in town called Foster Coffee Company. They're getting ready to open up their 3rd location in Lansing, Michigan. They're really becoming known around the state. They've won some statewide awards. We're just a really cool place. It's been a place where everyone comes from the community and just kind of meets and comes up with new ideas. A lot of new businesses have started at Foster Company and at one of those tables. And then we got a restaurant, Lula's, that has won some statewide awards for the best fried chicken. You're looking for the best fried chicken in the state of Michigan. Lula's has that. And just a lot of stuff like that. So these aren't just even these little businesses that are kind of appealing to the community, but we're really kind of having a statewide appeal. And now there's just this spirit of entrepreneurship. If you were to go on my website under my podcast, why I started it, the very first line is inspired by the entrepreneurial spirit of my community. It's just such a positive vibe around here that people want to do something and believe that they can make it work in downtown Owosso. So how many new businesses do you know off the top of your head if you've seen come in to the downtown area in the last 5 or 6 years?
Well, I think the building we're sitting in kind of skews that a little bit, but in a good way, because it can consolidate so many great businesses.
Yeah,
all
we
in
love
one.
being here.
Oh, and over the last 5 or 6 years, probably, oh man, don't quote me on it, but probably 40.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And, of course, there's some great events that happen downtown annually. There's a great one coming up next week. Cruise the Pits has kind of come back. It used to be a thing when we were kids that there was this thing in Owosso called Cruise the Pits where, like, on Friday nights, kids would get in their cars and they would drive this route around Owosso and literally would just drive around for hours. And they called it Cruising the Pits for some reason, and it just kind of went away. There was some people liked it, some people didn't, but now they've kind of brought it back and turned it into a car show, and they have a cruise, and it's becoming like a statewide event. And so just a lot of cool things happening. And I remember there used to be a time where you never seen anyone walking around downtown Owosso, and now you drive through the downtown on a nice day, you see people walking and shopping and people walking their pets and their kids, and it's just really cool. So I think it's awesome to see the work that's happening, and I'm sure that will continue to go on. But what is your proudest accomplishment in regards to the downtown to date? The thing that you just really are excited about?
Again, my thing is people, connecting people to people, and I think that the success that we've had over the number of years of bringing people together, organizationally speaking, the collaborations that we have amongst stakeholder groups here in the community, whether it be individual business owners or property owners, nonprofit organizations, our main mission, Owosso Main Street's relationship with the Chamber of Commerce, and how we work together here in this building together. To the Owosso Historical Commission, the downtown Owosso Farmers Market, which is the second largest farmers.
I don't know how I forgot to mention
all
that.
outdoor farmers
Love
market.
the farmers
in the state.
market, yeah.
And they were really, excuse me. I think the farmers market was that first catalytic organization and event that did that. It brought people back out into the downtown streets.
Yeah.
And it ended up the people were talking to people, and I think we live in this is a little bit of a soapbox of mine, but we live in a world now where everything is a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yeah.
And I think there's something that within us that yearns for something deeper than that. And,
Yeah.
we need to be, social media is great, and it's a great platform for many things. But I think people have a yearning to be known.
Yeah.
They have a yearning to plug in. And I think
For sure.
the market did that, and then what Main Street has been able to do, and the people a part of Main Street have been able to do, is bring that identity back. And the way that we've been able to come together as multiple organizations, multiple different boards, multiple different directors, the unity that we've found with each other under that idea that this can be a place that we can tell our great story of Owosso, but also where people can succeed, and they can spark new ideas.
Yeah.
And we can be a team, and even sometimes a family as we do it.
Right.
Being able to see that come to fruition, and we're just our organization is just one piece, but to be able to see all of that picture being painted, for me, is probably the biggest success.
Yeah.
Businesses will come and go, and and we have great ones right now.
Yeah.
But the longevity of a downtown is when you see all of that come together. That's
People
when you see businesses
For sure.
stay longer and succeed.
So what do you think really has been the keys to this really, I think maybe when you first started, there was probably some hope and even some ambition and drive, but to really see it happening and coming together, and I don't know if it's happened faster than you thought or slower than you thought, but what do you think? I think it's gone relatively quick, and the amount of changes happened, but what do you think are some of the keys to why it's working?
I have three really that I think are number one. I think first and foremost, and the ones that get overlooked probably the most, are the property owners. We have amazing property owners in downtown that are willing to risk, and business owners.
Sure.
Many often they're business owners and property owners, but the risk that they take to do the things that have been done, and to even organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, to be able to look at the Armory and go, what, we're going to do it. And it might take us a number of years, but we're going to do it. And that takes a level of risk that it proves a loyalty, it proves a desire, it proves a hope that they have. And those property owners in our community are that to me. I have the luxury of seeing those individuals day by day and see their family lives, and I know what they bring to the plate, and I know what it's done. And I just have nothing but pure admiration for those folks. Two, organizational, goes back to the prior question, organizational unity.
Yeah.
The idea that we can work together, we can be transparent amongst organizations. It makes it easier for people to navigate, whether it be a municipality or the small business development center. All of those things. When an entrepreneur comes into our community, resources, and being able to have that unity makes it easier for them. And then also the idea of a term that I don't know if he coined it, but it comes from Dave Acton, our board chairman with Owosso Main Street, called Coopetition.
Yeah.
So the idea that businesses can compete and cooperate at the same time in an ecosystem of a downtown.
Yeah.
And being able to, it's more of a mindset than anything, but to be able to embrace that idea, I think births success in a community.
Well, I was wondering where the phrase came from. Was the first time I ever heard that phrase of Coopetition was with you. I had heard you mention it, and I thought, man, that's a cool, catchy word. And you hear it, and even though you never heard it, you kind of understand what it means. And it's certainly something that I've seen in action downtown. Certainly something we've put into action here, in that we are able to offer things to our clients that we wouldn't maybe be able to do if we didn't work with some of the other businesses nearby. And so I want to talk about, why do you think, I don't want to dismiss the first two. I think those are also important, but I want to dive in a little deeper into this Coopetition thing, because I think it is a unique thing, and I think if other communities and businesses and entrepreneurs could grab onto it, it could really be a help to them. But why do you think it's something that would be an important thing to look into for businesses and entrepreneurs, particularly when they're in a close-knit area, community, downtown, such thing?
Sure. I think it's a way to plug your business into a broader ecosystem. I think especially if you're in a downtown community, or in a village or a district within a community, the idea that you're an island all on your own is just false.
Sure.
Now you have a business you need to run, and that is on your back. I have a mother that's been a small business owner most of my life, and so I get it.
Right.
And it is a very individual thing when it comes to your business. But when you're plugged into a community like that, or a district, or a downtown, success isn't necessarily determined by that ecosystem, but it certainly does help when it's all plugged together and it's running like a fine-tuned machine. And I think Coopetition helps with that. It helps plug businesses together. It helps create niche nuances within your business model that can both set yourself apart from different businesses in your community, but also complement the other things that are going on.
Yeah.
So when a consumer comes in, it's really an eventful experience to know that when and we've seen it in other communities. It might not be tagged that, they might not know that they're doing it, but
Right.
every community that's thriving, every successful town that's thriving has those little nuances of.
For sure.
And it really it sparks up the ability for you as a business owner to create something
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, and we here at AZ, we work with well over 50 different businesses in helping them growing their brands. A lot of them right here in Owosso, some of them in the state of Michigan, and some even outside of the state of Michigan. But one of the things we've noticed about working with clients in regards to digital marketing, is what we do here, is what clients really like it when they can come to one place and get a full service situation. And so instead of me having to hire a full-time videographer and a full-time photographer and a full-time web designer and a full-time, we have people on staff to do some of those things. But when somebody needs something outside of the realm of what we do day to day, we just incorporate some of these other local talented business people and say, hey, I got this client that needs some really great professional photography. You're a great photographer. Why don't we work together? My client only has to work with one person. They don't have to go to 8 different people to get something done. So the client loves it, and it's putting business on it's giving business to the other business owners. And it's just been amazing for us. And I've had this vision of AZ for a long time, to work with other businesses right across the hall from me. Now, we're a web design company. You look on our glass here and it says web design, and right across the hall from me are probably the 2 most talented web designers in our community. And I love the fact that they're right across the hall from me. Some people might get intimidated by that. Maybe they're trying to take business, but if it works for Home Depot and Lowe's, and if it works for Rite Aid and CVS to be right across from each other, why can't we do it? And so we've actually collaborated. I don't know what the verb of Coopetition is, but we've actually worked together on a lot of projects, and having the sounding board and bounce ideas of each other has been fantastic. And I don't think that would work in a lot of communities, because people are so intimidated to work with other people, or maybe not intimidated, but what do you think that is? I think there's a lot of businesses that hesitate to work with someone that's considered a competitor. Why do you think that is?
Especially with small business, I think there's a scarcity mentality you can adopt as a small business owner.
Yeah.
The idea that the market isn't big enough. From a local context, I think our downtown probably captures, countywide, there's almost 70,000 people.
Right.
And our downtown, even though we're the biggest downtown in our county, we might capture 4 to 6% of that county
Right.
consumer
Market share.
Yeah. Imagine if that were to bump up another 2%.
Oh, it'd be huge.
It's huge, and the idea that the market isn't big enough, it's ripe for the picking, frankly.
Right.
But I think there can be, if we're not careful, a scarcity mentality that says, well, if such and such moves in, and it's similar to me, how am I going to be? And what Coopetition does is it allows you to go out into that broader market,
Right.
and reach out in different ways that will help you support what you're doing and what they're doing.
Yeah.
This idea was first presented when Foster Coffee started coming into business, because at the time we had another store called Owosso Books and More, which was the downtown bookstore. That's going to
Yep.
be coming back, by the way.
Yes. Exciting.
Yes, in just a matter of a month or so.
Yep. Very
But
exciting.
but at the time they were serving coffee, and it wasn't an urgent thing at all. But we were talking with the business owner. They said, "Well, what can we do?" And I talked to them, and I said, "Well, Foster is going to be a craft coffee company.
Yeah.
When I see the coffee come out here, there's a lot of whipped cream on top."
Yeah.
And I said, "What if it's dessert coffee?"
Yeah.
And
Which is a big market
it's
for
a big market. That's right. And they kind of took that and ran with it at the time, and so it makes you feel comfortable that yes, it's a similar model, but you can differentiate yourself that will both
Yeah.
complement what they're doing and accentuate what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key.
Yeah, and the new model that's being created now that's coming into town, and I don't want to spoil too much because I know they got a lot planned, the new bookstore,
Yeah.
but they're actually going to be working with Foster.
Exactly.
And this model of Coopetition is going to be well at work, and I think people are going to love it. I know as you have, I've got to see the plans and everything that's happening. It's going to be really exciting. So,
And then we have, sorry to interrupt, but we have, Foster Coffee serves Bees Bakeries donuts.
yeah,
Myrtle's, our local chocolate shop here, one of our local chocolate shops here in downtown, serves Cupcakes and Kisses products.
Yeah.
So there's lots of cross marketing, Coopetition amongst that.
and it only makes sense to do that, and then you can specialize on really what you're great at and make the greatest whatever you do, and then you can enhance your services and your offerings by utilizing some of these other local great things that you have here. And I think when businesses work together like that, and there are certainly instances where you can't work directly with your competitor.
Absolutely.
It's just, that's
Yep.
obvious. But in the right context and in the right environment, I think when you do that, it only benefits the way you're able to service your clients. And so you have to be smart about it and know, what your environment is and who your competitors are. And, you can't necessarily do it in every context. But I think that when you find yourself in the right environment, that's a possibility. It's something worth exploring. It's something that's helped us, and I know it's helped a lot of businesses here. And so I think there's a lot of big advantages to it. I would say the only disadvantages that I can think of is doing it in the wrong context. Doing it in the wrong context. But
Yeah, and I think what it does too is even if it doesn't work out as much, it's getting you out in that environment of looking. So it's getting you in contact with your competitor.
yeah,
It creates I use the word atmosphere, but I think that's important. You might not be able to work anything out with that particular business, but you've started talking to that business
Yeah.
owner. And there's a line of communication. There could be a friendship that starts.
certainly.
And when you're in a downtown or a district or a community of businesses, that's important.
Right.
Being able to communicate with your neighbor, being able to share that, because
exactly.
out of that can be birthed so many different things. It doesn't have to be swapping of products. It
Right.
can be collaborative sale events or
Absolutely.
shopping nights or
Well, and that
so
brings
much
me,
more.
And that brings me to kind of the next thing I want to talk about is social media. As a business, we manage almost 70 social media accounts, and a lot of those are some of the downtown businesses. But we're really big on sharing and liking other people's events. Here at AZ, when we see an event that's happening in our community, we'll like it, we'll share it. But we manage like the Pines Country Inn, the Comstock, and these are hotels. So anytime there's an event downtown, or there's live music, or there's a restaurant doing something, or coffee's having a or Foster's having a coffee event, we'll, post that on their pages. We'll actually create a branded graphic that's the Comstock Inn or the Pines Country Inn, and talk about hosting. We just did one recently where if you're looking for a place to host a bridal shower, stop by the Pines has great rooms, and Abiding in the Vine has great space, and we just tag all these other businesses. And so we're always, as we're managing local social media accounts, we're always looking for local events. The Lebowski's doing something great, or there's going to be some event happening downtown. And even some of the accounts that we do, like Woodworth Commercial or Hometown Markets, that aren't necessarily event driven, we're posting those events on their pages, because I think that when people see all these businesses coming together and supporting each other, it obviously opens up the view and the audience, but I think it makes people feel like something great is happening.
Yeah.
So
I think people like to see that. They like to see that unity, and it does break the algorithm, right?
Yeah, it certainly does.
We had for a time we had Mark Jacobson from ABC 12 News, the morning crew there, coming to downtown all the time, and always looking for, calling my office looking for a story. And I asked him one day, I said, what's up with all the phone calls? And we're certainly happy to have you,
right.
But what makes Owosso so different here? And he said, well, when I do something in Saginaw County and I post it to our Facebook page, we might get, and this is before the Facebook really came down, and but he said I might get 15 to 20,000 views. But when I share something that's in Owosso, I'll get 40 to 50,000 views in just Owosso alone.
Wow.
And he said that's a big deal for us, trying to get our word out. And that sparked a conversation amongst all of us, going, well, why is it so different? And it's to your point, we're always so willing to share what other people do. Even when the algorithm was a little bit lighter, it just blew right through that to where people were sharing, and before you know it, the views took off. It's certainly not viral by any means, but enough
locally
viral. Yeah, when you get 40, 50,000 views, that's a big deal here in mid-Michigan. So it really enticed him to keep coming back. So it's kind of more proof to what your point is there.
And I think I would encourage you, depending on your type of business, but find local businesses and organizations that are doing events and doing things that draw people to your community, and go ahead and like it and share it. Show your support. It will come back to you. It has for us. And so we're really big on really just supporting other people. I think sometimes people are just, maybe it's intimidation, maybe it's fear that someone's going to be better, but I think if you just have the mindset to support, I tell my staff all the time, I get excited about anybody doing something new. And I don't care if I think it's a good idea, a bad idea, but I just get excited about somebody that has an idea that they're excited about and is willing to put themselves out there. I don't know how many people, when I started my business, thought, what are you doing? You're leaving this great job with great pay you have 6 kids. Like, how are you going to start a business? You don't have any money. And even when I started my podcast, people are like, what? Well, I don't get it. I don't understand. Why are you doing it? Do you make any money? And, so I'm excited by people. So I like to support people and what they're doing. My production guy, Zach, him and his buddy just started a YouTube channel. And they've been at it for 6 weeks, and they already have over 10,000 subscribers, which is
good job, guys.
Unreal.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they've had over 1 million views on their channel in less than 6 weeks. And, I'm just excited for them. I don't get it. I don't understand it, what they're doing. But it's not necessarily I'm not their audience, but I'm just excited that they're doing something. And I think if people just had a little bit more enthusiasm, not just about what you're doing, but supportive of other people, I think you're going to find benefits in that. And so I know we're getting to the end of our episode here, but I'd like you to give our audience a good example, a successful example of Coopetition at work here in Owosso. Like, who's doing it well?
Well, I kind of rattled them off there in succession, but the work that I see between Myrtles and Cupcakes and Kisses, really also the Foster Coffee Company, their work with Bee's Bakery and Apple Tree Lane. Yeah. But from a social media standpoint, I think more than just swapping or sharing product, Myrtle's Vintage Barrel, little antique store here in the community, Makeup by Kendra Lee, Blossom Boutique. We have there's a kind of what I call the some of the new class of businesses that have moved in over the last probably 2-3 years. They do a great job sharing. Aviator Jane. They do a great job on social media sharing other people's each other's things. And it starts off small as you're starting to build your network of people and your particular pages, but pay attention to those folks because they're really doing that, and they really look at each other as a team.
Yeah.
And they understand that idea that their business will succeed on their own,
right?
But together it just makes it that much sweeter.
I think it's cool. Like Foster Coffee, they don't have a commercial kitchen per se, and they wanted to serve an espresso donut, and so they went to the local bakery and said, here's some of our coffee, can you make a donut out of this? And they did, and it's amazing.
Yep.
And then when they went to Flint, Michigan, they found another local bakery to do the same thing for them. And so it's kind of this Foster Coffee inspired donut. It's not theirs. They even give the shout out to the bakery. Like they don't even claim that it's theirs, but they're, this was inspired by us, and it just works really well. And I think, I just think there are so many advantages to doing it if you do it well. So
and I think our businesses here do amazing work with pop-up shops, with community, with the community of business owners that sell goods either online or out of their home. We have a great class of business owners here that are always willing to open up their place for a backdrop or for a venue for those places. So the small business, you can buy from Amazon, and we all do.
Sure.
But there's just something about being able to
support
know the story behind those local business owners, because when you learn what they do for our community, from supporting local baseball teams, Amazon's not going to do that. They're not going to cut you a check.
No.
The local business will, and then support other entrepreneurs. And I think that's the cool thing about Coopetition too, is entrepreneurs love helping entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that's something very unique, and only small business can do that for you.
Well, Josh, I think you've done a great job. For what it's worth, in my opinion, I think you've done a good job. I've seen a lot of success happen.
Thank you very much.
In the downtown area, and I think it will continue to do so. And I know you don't certainly take credit. You're kind of a behind-the-scenes guy, but I think a lot of credit does go to you, and I think there's a lot of people that feel that way just in being willing to help facilitate things. And so at the end of it all, what does success look like to Josh Adams?
Well, for downtown or for me?
for Josh, for you,
sure.
for yourself. What does success look like?
I really don't know.
What makes you know you're successful?
I think the idea that being fulfilled in what I do, whatever that is, and that and I think in everybody's life, you go through stages, you go through different lives of what you do, and if it's helping people, and if I'm finding fulfillment in that's success for me.
Yeah, and I know Josh and I both are men of faith, and so we believe very wholeheartedly that we have a divine purpose. That God gives us a calling, and some people think being called to do something for God means being a pastor or being a missionary, and they kind of limit it to those two things, But I think God calls people to do a lot of different things. And when I was a young man, all I wanted to do was be a youth pastor. And I did that for a while, but God has brought me to this point. Never would have thought I'd be doing this, but I am more confident today than ever that I'm fulfilling my purpose, and God's purpose in my life. And there's just fulfillment in that.
Yeah,
there really is fulfillment in that.
Absolutely.
So if there's someone out there, local business entrepreneur, that has heard this today and thought, I would like to do that. I would like to kind of start this idea of Coopetition. Maybe they have a business that they have in mind that they'd like to approach, but maybe they're afraid to do it. What would be a good first step you would encourage them to do?
This sounds weird, but buy from your competitor. Introduce yourself and
absolutely
be a consumer of your competitor.
Get to know them.
Nothing. There's no bigger impact than being a consumer.
Right.
There's lots of different ways. We get, downtown businesses get lots of people coming in asking for things on occasion.
Absolutely.
And the one thing that I've noticed is that they'll walk in and go, well, will you give to such and such? Oh, how long have you been here? I've never been here before.
Exactly.
And to a business owner, if you are a client, if you're a consumer, they're going to give to you.
Right.
Same thing with a competitor. I think if you were to use their product, encourage them. Be that first step of, or be that open door, I think, and be that first person to lay down that, whatever that, competition is great. I'm all for it.
Me too.
But I think there are times when laying that down and just being that open door can be that first step. It kind of shakes people at first.
For sure.
But it's a good first step.
Yeah, let them know, it's like you don't ask a girl to marry you on your first date.
Exactly.
So, buy her a drink or buy her some, coffee first, take her on a date. And the same thing if you're looking to approach somebody, get to know them, go buy something from them, talk to them, ask them about their business, take interest, and then maybe the opportunity will present itself. So, Josh, I always ask our guests this, but give us Josh Adams' best piece of advice. And it can be related to Coopetition, doesn't have to be, but just a piece of advice.
I'm going to tell you 3 things that I tell my son all the time. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're just looking to get a job, just a job to get you through to college, whatever. 3 things. Be willing to do what no one else wants to do. If you're the person in the room when the crap hits the fan, that you're the only one keeping it together, be that person.
Yeah.
Be that one steady state person that can help bring things back together.
Yeah.
And then be nice. Just be nice.
Yeah.
I think our world needs that more than ever. Just be
kind.
Nice. Be kind.
Be kind.
Yep.
Great advice, and I think that would apply to anybody, whether you're just a person or a business owner, whatever. So, good advice. Well, Josh, thank you for being on the show today. If someone out there is wanting to get a hold of you and talk about Main Street, talk about Coopetition, just wants to look up Owosso Main Street, tell our audience how they can find you in Owosso Main Street.
Sure. So Owosso Main Street is our organizational brand, but we also, everything that you see downtown Owosso is Owosso Main Street. So we have our organizational brand, and then we have our destination brand, which is downtown Owosso. So if you went to just downtownowosso.org, we'll have everything about our program, everything about what we're doing here in downtown. And then personally, just you can email me at downtownowosso at gmail.com.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thanks for being here today. Look him up, and I think we've heard some really good things. I hope this has been an encouragement to you. Maybe you found something you can take away and inspire you. If you're in a situation where you think, man, I know somebody that I want to approach, maybe take some of this advice and go get to know them and buy from them, support your local company, and be willing to put yourself out there. And so thank you for joining us on our show today. As my mother always said, you can't and never could until you tried. So get out there and try something great, my friends, and don't take the easy way out. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, if you like what you saw today, please like and subscribe for more content.